Hi, greetings from Liberty High School. This is Mr. Bing Marshallek, and it is Tuesday, October 13th at 8:04 a.m. It is first block, Project Lead the Way Engineering, Civil Engineering and Architecture. And I want to go over one of our assignments that we're just starting today. Let me see if I can share this screen with you. Today's assignment is 2.2.1, which is concrete estimate, concrete pad estimate. And what I want you to see first is when you go to Schoology, we've got the past couple of weeks, we've been working on 213A, 213B, 213C, which was Autodesk Revit 3D modeling of the utility shed, little tiny shed, and you guys did 213A and 213B. 213C, I'm assuming you worked on. I still need to catch up with 213C myself. And then today or this week, 221 and 222, and you see that reflected in the announcements for today, Tuesday, October 13th. 213C is late now, so make sure you get that turned in as soon as possible. And then 221 today and tomorrow, 222 the next 2 days. So 222 will not be due this weekend, but 221 will be. You know how that works. And so in the assignment, and the Project Lead the Way course web page, 221 concrete pad estimate, which is exactly what it sounds like. You're going to estimate the cost to build a concrete pad. And this concrete pad is basically the subfloor of the utility shed that you designed on Revit in the last couple of weeks. In this assignment, just like every assignment, you make a notebook entry. That notebook entry should include a table of contents with the date, the title, and the pages that it's on. Mine is already up to 37, 38, 39, and 40. And so when you read a paragraph like this in introduction, you should take at least one note from this paragraph. There's a real easy little note right there that you should probably look at. And then the resources themselves, utility shed drawing and utility shed drawing. This is the same example file or example drawing of the shed. This, you don't have to take any notes on this, but I would look at it. There's nothing relevant about that drawing except for the fact that it shows you the shed. And the shed, of course, is what you're building your concrete pad on. Now, let me see if I can share the Project Lead the Way, or I'm sorry, the PowerPoint. Let me stop share. Hi, it's me again. Share screen. The PowerPoint for this assignment that, of course, you take notes on. This is a table of contents for the PowerPoint. You don't need to take notes on that, but you do need notes on this, on this, on this. Well, that's the same thing. On this, and then not necessarily on this. This, whenever you see the red text, this is an example. You're going to be doing this calculation in the assignment itself. So I don't think it's necessary to put this example in your notebook document, but you absolutely should look at it because obviously it shows you how the concrete estimate is done. So not necessarily notes on slides with red text. So there's some more red text. Now there's no red text. I definitely want you to take notes on that because you will see this 6-inch overlap, and that will make sense in a little while. And then 3-inch edge distance, that will make sense in a little while. By the way, Nathan and Marcus, I told you that there was a 3-inch overlap for the rebar. It's actually a 6-inch. I was wrong. It is a 6-inch overlap. Now it is still a 3-inch edge distance. So more notes there. Here is more the example. Anytime you see red text, or at least in this PowerPoint, I don't think it's necessary to take notes on that, but you definitely must look at it. And more red text. Back to regular note taking. Make sure you take notes from that slide, and then here is just the final slide, which shows the table of contents of the PowerPoint you just looked at. And let me see if I can stop that. And hello again. And then go back to this one. So in the assignment itself, after you've taken notes and set things up in the notebook, then there is the procedure. I'm going to let you read that for yourselves. And then you get to this, and this is the actual diagram of the concrete pad underneath the utility shed that you designed in 213A, B, and C. And you notice that it is 12 feet wide in this direction and 16 feet wide in that direction. That should be familiar since that was the size of your shed. And so the actual concrete pad, I think that's pretty obvious. It's just a big rectangle. But then there's these dashed lines, and these dashed lines represent rebar, which is metal bars, reinforced bar. That's what rebar stands for. And they literally put the rebar inside the concrete while it's still wet, and then it dries. and the rebar is doing exactly what it sounds like. It's reinforcing the concrete. If you did not have rebar, the concrete would crack very easily. So these dashed lines represent, this grid represents where the rebar is embedded in the concrete. And you see here that it's 2 feet apart. That's the standard, that each line of rebar should be 2 feet apart. And when you see that, you think, well, 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8 pieces of rebar. But it actually means that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections of concrete in 16 divided by 2 feet. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's always one more piece of rebar than there are sections of concrete. Same thing in this direction, 12 feet divided by 2, there's 6. However, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of rebar. And when I say pieces of rebar, what I mean is a line of rebar, because they actually, the dimension that they come in is 10 feet, 10 foot lengths of rebar. So a 10-foot length is not going to cover this entire 16-foot section. And a 10-foot length is not going to cover this entire 12-foot section. So you do have to use a full bar plus a segment of another bar. And what's a little bit complicated about that is the fact that if you use a single bar and then a piece of a second bar, they do have to overlap wherever they butt up against each other. So the butt to butt of one rebar to another rebar has to overlap by 6 inches. I told Nathan and Marcus earlier that it was 3, it is 6. It overlaps 6 inches at each point. And I already kind of know that this is the point that the rebar, because it's 10 feet, this is the point where there will be an additional piece. If that's the way you design it, you don't have to lay it out exactly the way that I do, or Nathan does, or Marcus does. So anyway, you're going to need full lengths plus partial lengths. You will figure that out. You got an overlap anytime it's a butt to butt, which is 6 inch overlap. But then you also have a 3-inch edge distance from the edge of the concrete pad. You do not want your rebar to be right up against the edge. It'll fall out. It'll fall out of the concrete. So it does need to be 3 inches in from each edge. And also there is going to be pieces of wood that run along the perimeter before the concrete is poured. It's called a frame, or I don't remember the other word for it, but I call it just a frame of the boards. And again, they don't sell boards in the full length of 16 by 12. Actually, I do think they sell 12. So that might be one big piece of 2x6 lumber, one big piece of 2x6 lumber, but then you're going to need one full plus an additional section. What's peculiar about this is they tell us in the assignment that the framing comes in 12-foot sections, and they're sold in 16-foot. Oh, I made a mistake. They are sold in 16-foot sections. And the reason that I knew that before I read that is I built a fence recently, and we bought from Home Depot 16-foot long 2x6s, exactly that. However, if you have a 12-foot section here, you're gonna have to cut 4 feet off of that, and which is a shame, because that turns into waste, but maybe you can reuse partial sections in other pieces of the frame. So they give you this table to figure out how much your concrete, steel, which is the rebar, the forms and the forms. I call them frames. They're called forms. Those the rectangular pieces of wood that enclose the concrete when it's poured. So anyway, there's concrete, steel, forms and forms, lumber basically, and you have to figure out how much of those you need based on your analysis of this geometry, and then how much each unit of that costs, and figure out the total cost for each piece of material: concrete, steel, forms, and then the total cost of everything, total. There are conclusion questions: describe the problems, what percentage of, why is it important? Do answer those conclusion questions in your notebook. Make sure you rewrite. Actually, these are not questions, but make sure you rewrite. These are questions. Make sure you rewrite each of these items in the form of an answer, rather than just writing the question or the statement here, or the directive here. Instead of just writing that word for word, rewrite your answer, or rewrite that question in terms of an answer. So it's more of just stating facts. So you take notes, look at the PowerPoint, take notes on that, follow the procedure, figure out all the pieces of rebar and framing lumber, and the amount of concrete that has to be poured here. Take into account the 6-inch overlap here. Take into account the 3-inch edge distance here. And I really enjoy this assignment. I think it's interesting to me. It's very straightforward. There's not any sort of mysteries here. They tell you exactly what you need to do. I find the Revit stuff to be a little bit overwhelming to me, because It's just so complicated. And there's just so many settings that I don't quite get. But this one I get. I like this one a lot because I'm capable of doing it. So that's nice. And I think that's it. Marcus, Nathan, can you think of anything I should tell them that I may have told you? They're shaking their heads no. So maybe I'm being consistent now. Engineering Notebook, Project Lead the Way webpage. Make sure you check the announcements. Find a Revit online alternative if you can. And there are assignments that are due, will be due, and then in a week or two will be due. 8 of you turned in your assignment last night, and that's great. I think there's actually 10 of you in the class though, so 2 more of you need to get on it. That's it, I think. Let me stop the share. By the way, I apologize for going bang, 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 just doing a speed run on this for you. I apologize for that. So pause and play it again and pause wherever you need to, and hopefully that'll work. You're teenage Americans, you know all of this stuff. I'm going to stop my recording now, and I have really enjoyed this one. This is one of my favorites so far.